So recently, Whatnot has found itself in a lot of legal trouble, and the dust is starting to settle. And Bill and I have had an
If
opportunity to look at it and
yes,
try to figure out our opinion, and hopefully can
yes.
help you get thinking about it with these questions that we're going to talk about. So, do you want to explain the problems that Whatnot has found themselves in first?
Okay, so these are continual problems. This was not a one-time thing. It's not a one-off. It's literally a it's a different of theology on how they are doing it. Whatnot basically started as the Wild West. Like basically, hey, you get on our platform, you sell stuff, you hit stuff in a break. Sometimes you don't send it, different stuff. So they are now because of these lawsuits being held accountable for their actions. Now, in those cases, it does happen to be that they are calling into question people doing breaks, like the randomness, because you're not actually buying in a break. If you're buying a team, you're buying a team, and you get all those players. If you're buying into a random, you don't know what you're buying, so you're literally buying air, and then they random it, and they're saying that those can be manipulated, and with people use cards, people use different ways to do that. Those systems are saying can be manipulated, and they're saying that they need to cease and desist. They're also saying with the repacks, Whatnot did come up with something around November, December that was like, hey, if you're going to do a repack with us, you have to follow these steps. You have to list everything that's in your repack and make sure that you're not screwing over the customer. Well, basically, they've kind of laxant on that and not followed through on those rules. Now, come to find out, when you sign up for Whatnot, in the deep papers that you sign that you agree to and agree to and agree to, because you're just like, hey, I just want to go on Whatnot, I just want to buy stuff. There is things saying that you will not look for legal protection for anything. Basically, you waived away all your rights. Now, here's the problem. If you want to be on their platform, you have to sign this code of code of silence, basically, and that's really unethical. And with all the Paul Lesko, who has filed the first thing, it's a class action suit. They've already had over 100 people contact them, and we're not talking about, hey, I bought into a $20 break. I mean, they're talking people that have spent millions and millions of dollars with these breaks and stuff like that, and feel like they've been manipulated. So in those cases, it will go to court. Whatnot, if it does not fall in the favor of Whatnot, there's a major problem in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I right now they are trying to work out an arbitration, and then who pays for the arbitration? Does Whatnot pay? Because each case has to be arbitrated.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be a major thing and could shake up Whatnot. And what happens to Whatnot if the only thing you can do on there is buy singles?
Mm-hmm.
Or the only thing you can do is buy into breaks where you're actually paying the price that the team costs. Like you can't luckily get the Mavs for a discounted price.
Mm-hmm.
The Mavs will be like $1,000 in a break, and every other team's $50.
Mm-hmm.
Is people going to continue to do that? So
Yeah. So a couple preliminary things, I guess, before we get started, and we're kind of probably going to title this something like "Whatnot, Judge for Yourself,"
judge
because
for
they
yourself.
are going to be judged, and that is going to happen for sure. But here's a couple things that I wanted to make sure that people were understanding. Whatnot is the biggest of the three live platforms
Mm-hmm.
thus far. The other platforms like eBay Live and Fanatics Live are not part of any kind of lawsuit. And their vetting process for letting people on is a lot more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their standards have been a lot more difficult to meet. And I guarantee they're going to take this as a sign to continue that process. If
Mm-hmm.
anything, the standards are going to get more difficult for you to get on eBay Live, for you to get on Fanatics Live, because this is a big heads up for the entire live breaking industry that there could be problems on the horizon. Another thing I'd want to point out, just background a little bit, is when people began getting on Whatnot, it was always seemed to be in the customer favor. Like people could get all kinds of good deals on Whatnot. But now the tides have turned and it's been such a large platform and so many people have began to move over to that platform that there is often bidding wars and cards are now going for much higher than they would
Yeah,
on eBay or in other
yeah.
platforms. So,
I mean, the other platforms, your Fanatics Live
mhm,
and your eBay Live,
mhm,
and your Fanatics Collect, they basically have looked at all the mistakes that they
mhm,
feel that Whatnot has made
mhm,
and left all these loopholes, and they've closed them.
mhm,
That is the safest way to do it
mhm,
because you do not want to. Nobody opens a business and says, "Hey, I want to get sued tomorrow."
mhm,
No. So they do vet their people. It is very
mhm,
difficult to get on eBay Live. It
mhm,
is very difficult. I've heard a lot about it. I'm not going to go that way. To be honest with you, easiest thing to do is to get on Whatnot
mhm,
right now. Whatnot, if like we said, if they have that problem, they will close those loopholes,
mhm,
and it will be more difficult. And you're not going to see these breakers making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars
mhm.
because they can't get all these people into randoms.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some of the possible ramifications to the hobby because of these crackdowns on Whatnot. So I'll make a statement, and Bill can kind of say, yeah, he agrees, here's why,
yep.
or disagrees. Here's a statement: smaller breakers are going to move off of the Whatnot platform. What's your thoughts on that?
So I would say this: your smaller breakers have to start somewhere. The smaller breaker isn't going to go to Fanatics Live because of all the vetting process and stuff like that.
Hmm.
The multiple cameras you have to have, the everything has to be under camera 24/7 until it's even packed and shipped.
Hmm.
So literally, you're not, if you're a one person and you have one camera and you can do Whatnot right now. I can literally do Whatnot from my phone. I don't need multiple cameras. You at any other platform have to have all that stuff. So, but is Whatnot going to switch those things up? Still yet to be seen.
Yeah, I would say that I could definitely see Bill's point. It is the ease, right? We talk about barrier of entry into market.
Mm-hmm.
It's the easiest to do, and so I understand that for a guys that's just breaking a couple of blasters that he found at Walmart or a
Mm-hmm.
few megas, that's where you want to go. I totally get that. However, now we've added the problem of now you've got to sell it by the team. So now
Yes.
you're a smaller breaker, you don't have much of a social media following, and you need the people who are just streaming or just jumping on Whatnot as casual shoppers to get in and take your Baltimore
Mm-hmm.
Orioles or to take your Blue Jays or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I think that's a harder push. And I think that a lot of these guys that are struggling to fill breaks, even with randoms, if randoms are a thing of the past, I think they're out of there. I also think not just breakers, but smaller guys that are doing these repacks, if they're trying to do their own homemade repacks, which they were supposed to have cracked down on six
Mm-hmm.
months ago,
Yeah.
if guys are trying to do that or just the cheapest repack they can find,
Mm-hmm.
and they're making money on there or barely making money on there, then they're going to start to move off of that and move toward another thing. I'd also go farther, and this will be another thing that Bill can mention or comment on. I think a large percentage of those reputable dealers move from Whatnot to eBay Live or Fanatics Live. And a matter of fact, if you have a shop, I have no idea why you're not already moving toward Fanatics Live or on Fanatics Live and just trying to avoid the whole drama and legal problems that Whatnot is having. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think about that?
So if you have a shop and you're already on Whatnot, it makes sense. It makes sense to build a room.
Mhm,
Honestly, not to put down any of the other platforms, but if you have a big enough room and you're able to start your own website, you literally use Whatnot to build a room and then you take the room with you. You add those people to your personal accounts and then you move it off of that and not pay them a percentage.
mhm.
Uh, but there are so many people on that platform. Will people follow you?
Mhm.
You don't know. And then if you don't have a big enough room, you're not going to fill a lot of those spots.
Mhm.
No, it's for the team that's going, for the person that is just starting, it makes sense. You're going to have to do a lot. Whatnot has a lot of growing pains.
Mhm.
Basically, thing is giveaways.
Mhm.
You have to do stuff to get people in your room. You have to get people excited
Mhm.
to be there and want to spend money with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Randoms is a way. It is a way to get people interested because the gambling side of it. I mean, when it
Mhm.
all boils down to it, it's all gambling.
Mhm.
There was a guy today that bought a case off of us of cards that
Mhm.
Rob had got part of his $26,000 deal, and he already told me he's like I got multiple choices with this case. I can open the case.
Mhm.
I might get 3 times my money, or
Mhm.
I might not. I might lose money, or I can take it on Whatnot, break it up into five box lots, and
Mhm.
double my money
Mhm.
100%. What is the safer bet? Well,
Mhm.
that's the safer bet to do the break,
Mhm.
not worry if there's $1,000 card in the case, because you're going to double your $600 to $1,200.
Mhm.
No problem. And with WNBA, which it is particular,
Mhm.
there's not that many teams,
Yeah.
so it's an easier sell. So,
Yeah.
um, with your lower end, I understand that, or your smaller breakers, yes, and you can hide in the shadows for now. But if you are a major company, no, you're going to leave this platform at some point. But Fanatics has to get more people to that platform,
Mhm.
and if they don't, what do you do then?
Mhm. So another statement that I would make is they crack down on the repackers
Mm-hmm.
and that side of thing with a detailed list of everything that's included in the repacks
Yes.
and all that. Are we going to see less people out at shows stocking for Whatnot, less people chasing after case hits? Do you think?
Okay, so no, not necessarily, and and they've had a 6 month reprieve or whatever because Whatnot's like, hey, we're going to crack down. Then they didn't do anything. It's basically BS. They basically just told you. They said what they had to say for legal purposes to try to protect their name.
Mhm.
It was complete BS. They weren't planning on enforcing it and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Okay, your case hits, your big case hits, no problem. Your $1,000 card that they need as a chaser for stuff, absolutely no problem. People are still going to be buying this. Now, I've had a run of people contacting me like, hey, I'm looking for the $30 to $80 cards. They're not looking, because they can get away with being a $30 case hit in a repack product that they're charging $100 a thing because they'll be like, well, oh, or they just manipulate the money and say, oh,
Mhm.
well, well, it is a case hit. It's still
Mhm.
a $30 card, but it is a case hit. So, you did get something good. So there are people that are they're still trying to cost efficiently put together their breaks. So no matter what happens at the end, they make 20% after all is said and done.
Mhm.
No, you're not. I think you're going to have more people trying to find more of that mid-range stuff
Mhm.
because Whatnot is going to make you at some point make a list of what you have on there. If you don't have stuff that people are interested in,
Mhm.
they're not buying into your break.
Mhm.
So no, I don't. I see probably a more aggressive amount of people trying to find that mid-range stuff because that's actually the harder stuff to find than the case hits. Because
Mhm.
the case hits, you go to everybody's showcase, and that's where all the case hits is. Your
Mhm.
bigger ones, and they buy them out. So
Mhm.
it's that mid-range stuff that's going to be the hardest to find.
Mhm.
And and then also one thing that I've noticed is without Whatnot having when I order something from Whatnot, there is no, especially repacks. It doesn't say, "Hey, I got a what a card goes for," or even with singles, it doesn't have a list of, "Hey, this Kobe sold for this." Well, the last one on eBay sold for 20, but the last one on Whatnot sold for $40. But that doesn't go into the inventory. That doesn't get put on any platform at all, because when that guy gets it, he gets it. It says lot number 5.
Mhm.
That's all it says.
Mhm.
So you're dealing with an artificial um, system
Mhm.
where the price of that card, the guy's going to come to the show and pay you $20 because he know and whatnot he's going to get more money.
Mhm.
And that's where you're seeing these people that are like, hey, this is a 700, this card went for 700. It's a $4,000 card. No, it was a $700 card that we talked about a couple weeks ago. They're just mad because they paid $700 expecting that they were going to get a crazy amount of people jump in and overpay. So,
Absolutely. So, one of the last things we'll talk about, and it's just, our opinion. And before we do that, I will comment on the less repackers needed for the case hit. I mean, I would agree. I don't think there's a going to be a much of a shift in the amount of people who are repackers and the amount of people who are out at shows. I do think there's a shift from the platform, though. I think that within 6 months, the amount of people shifting from that platform, and Fanatics is not going to take this opportunity in vain, and they are going to jump on it. And you will see them probably vetting people quicker and getting them in quicker. You'll probably see a huge marketing push to get people on that platform, maybe even lower rates temporarily or something like that. Now, here's the last thing, and this is just an opinion thing, but do you feel like, well, one, I think we would agree that gambling is not going to leave our hobby. You're
no.
gambling if you buy a box of cards, a blaster box. You're kind of gambling. So,
Yes.
do you feel that customers should appease or should basically regulate themselves, or do we need governmental agencies and stuff to come in and regulate things like
So
whatnot?
one of the things that's part of this lawsuit also is that they don't have a spending limit
Hmm.
for people. And there are people that have, I mean, gambling, I can tell you for one, if anybody knows me, gambling is an addiction. And
Hmm.
I'm being honest with you 100%. I've lost more money than I care to mention on here because it will be documented and we don't want to know that. But it is an addiction,
Hmm.
just as bad as alcohol, not as bad as eat food.
Hmm.
Like people that are fat, that's an addiction too.
Hmm.
But it is an addiction. And when you're sitting there and you're like, man, I just need that next one to hit. I just need that next one to hit.
Hmm.
It is a very, and there are no limitations. As long as your credit card can handle it,
Hmm.
they're going to bill it.
Hmm.
And your credit card's on file. So then when it gets knocked off and then you're sitting there, you're like middle of the night, and you're like, oh man, well, I'm going to have to grab this credit card.
Hmm.
No, they should have limitations on what you can spend.
Hmm.
And there are, the thing is, what Fanatics is going to have to do something not only with the vetting process of people coming there and selling on there,
Hmm.
but they're going to have to do something to try to get people to leave whatnot.
Hmm.
Because if the wheel's not broken,
Hmm.
if the wheel's not flat, I'm not putting air in it
Hmm.
until it becomes a problem.
Hmm.
I'm not leaving that platform. So yeah, Fanatics, I think they have an uphill battle. It won't be the people coming to Fanatics to sell because everybody wants to sell,
Hmm.
but they're going to have a problem of getting people to come over,
Hmm.
especially if these guys are going to be higher priced in
Hmm.
their stuff because they are not able to cut corners
Hmm.
or do a break in their, do a repack and they did a $10,000 repack that they made $15,000 on. If
Hmm.
Fanatics is going to come in and be like, hey, we're not going to let you do a repack unless it's packed out, this and
Hmm.
that, you're going to have a hard time moving people over there. So
Yeah.
um, it has to be greener. The grass has to be greener on the other side, or I'm not going.
Yeah.
And right now, Fanatics hasn't showed me anything, and I've never been on Fanatics. Haven't needed to.
Hmm. Yeah, and I would say that Fanatics is bigger on breaks than it
Mm-hmm.
is selling of singles.
Yes.
Fanatics Live. So, I'll answer the question. Do customers need to police themselves, especially if they have a gambling problem, or does Big Brother kind of need to step in and regulate? And so, I would say, I am a free market Republican type person when it comes to my stance on finances. However, I do think there should be safety things in place, limits, as Bill
Mm-hmm.
alluded to, because people do have real gambling addictions. Also, along those lines, if there's not already in place, there has to be some kind of serious thing about age,
Mm-hmm.
about the ability of a person of a certain age. And also,
Mm-hmm.
let's take the gambling out of the mix. New collectors are just uneducated, and new collectors are like fresh
Yes.
meat on whatnot. And
Mhm.
so there needs to be some kind of regulation in place, I think, at least temporarily, or maybe
Mhm.
your account as a new person who jumps on there as a buyer, you have certain limits, and then those limits increase as you become more educated.
Mhm.
And maybe the same on a dealer.
Yes.
As a dealer, maybe you can only
Yeah.
do two shows a week, or as
Yes.
a dealer, you're maxed out at 5 grand gross sales in a
Mhm.
week, or something like
Yeah.
that. Seems to be.
You can't overspend on your credit card, like we've talked about a budget. Hey, I need to stay within my budget.
Mhm,
Well, my budget isn't whatever I can spend that doesn't max out my credit card.
mhm,
That's not your budget.
yeah.
Your budget is what you can afford to spend.
Mhm,
See, we have a customer. We technically call him Mr. Pristine.
mhm,
So he opened many, many, many boxes of Pristine. When he opened a box and lost money,
mhm,
I felt bad.
mhm,
But there's always another box that could have something better.
mhm,
But it costs you $500 to find that out.
mhm,
I feel bad when people open boxes and lose money, but that's nothing we did.
mhm,
You bought the box. With whatnot, they at this point do not care
mhm,
that you bought one box, you
mhm,
bought two boxes. Hey, it's an 8 box case. Hey, you want that eighth box?
mhm,
That might be the one that has the case hit.
mhm,
Well, of course I do.
mhm,
But should they? No.
yeah,
It's like having a guy on every corner
mhm,
with heroin or crack and just handing out for free and saying,
mhm,
"Hey,
yeah,
because it gets you addicted, now it's $100." Well, I got to have it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the price is. I got to
mhm,
have it.
mhm,
And that is something that they should. There should be some. I don't think Big Brother should control your finances,
mhm,
but I also don't think that he should allow you to set yourself up for a fail.
yeah. We'll end with this, but there was a quote that I heard earlier today on watching something, and it said, "Do you know the one thing that you don't need to be on Whatnot as a dealer?
Is
And that's a
education.
heart."
Oh, I thought you was going to say
No,
education.
no, it's a heart. You don't need a heart to be on
Oh,
Whatnot
it
as a
would hurt.
dealer.
It would hurt your business.
Yeah. And so we'll go ahead and wrap this up, but make sure you like, follow, subscribe on all of our social media, and we will see you guys next time.
Absolutely.